Before the mid-1970s, terms like coke, blow, and yayo were unfamiliar to much of the world. The concept of a large-scale market for coke production, distribution, and consumption simply didn't exist. However, everything changed with the emergence of a man named George Jung.
It's pretty crazy when you think about it, that an old outlaw writing a story in a prison cell would come to all this.
Everyone possesses unique talents that set them apart. Some individuals are born leaders, endowed with the innate ability to rally others and inspire them to pursue a common goal. This power can be wielded for both noble endeavors and, unfortunately, for less savory purposes. Those who harness their leadership skills for good often rise to prominence, steering major businesses, founding charitable organizations, crafting captivating art, and renewing our belief in the inherent goodness of humanity. Conversely, individuals like George Jung utilize their natural leadership abilities to orchestrate large-scale drug trafficking operations. Few drug dealers can match the connections, charisma, and influence of American drug smuggler George Jung. Even fewer have evaded death or lifelong prison sentences like Boston George has. Teaming up with Pablo Escobar's notorious Medellin cartel, Jung played a major role in smuggling around 80% of all coke into the United States during the late 1970s and early 1980s. George went in and out of jail several times, mingled with ruthless figures in drug trafficking, all while gaining celebrity status due to the movie Blow in 2001, where Johnny Depp portrayed him. After his last release from jail in 2014, George Jung lived as a free man without regrets until his death at age 78. This is a closer look at one of America's most infamous drug smugglers. George Jung's story began on August 6, 1942, in Boston, Massachusetts. George Jung's journey began with humble beginnings. While he may not have excelled academically, his prowess on the football field earned him widespread popularity. However, his early years also revealed a notable lack of common sense. His first brush with the law occurred during high school when he was arrested for soliciting a prostitute, unknowingly approaching an undercover officer. Despite these setbacks, George managed to graduate from high school and enrolled at the University of Southern Mississippi, with aspirations of obtaining a degree in advertising. It was during his time in Mississippi that he was introduced to marijuana. However, it was a summer vacation in California that proved to be a pivotal moment. Hosting a party, George left a large bowl of pot out for guests to enjoy freely. A friend from the University of Massachusetts at Amherst was struck by both George's generosity and the remarkable potency of the marijuana. Inquiring about the cost, George revealed it was a mere $60. To his astonishment, back east, near George's childhood home, the same quality of pot could fetch upwards of $300. At that moment, George Jung's entrepreneurial instincts kicked in. Recognizing the lucrative potential, he saw an opportunity to make some extra cash on the side. Fueled by this revelation, Jung embarked on his first venture. He devised a strategy of procuring marijuana locally and transporting it to Amherst for resale, capitalizing on the stark regional price discrepancy. This marked the inception of Jung's foray into the drug trade, setting the stage for his eventual ascent to prominence within the underworld of drug smuggling and trafficking. Looking back years later, he remarked, "I felt like what I was doing was okay, because I was providing a product to people who wanted it and it was socially accepted." Before long, what started as a side hustle burgeoned into a full-fledged enterprise for George. Abandoning his studies, he delved headfirst into the drug trade, orchestrating the transportation of marijuana hidden within his suitcases during flights between Los Angeles and Boston. In the mid-60s, airfares between the two coasts were relatively inexpensive, allowing George to turn a tidy profit despite purchasing the weed for $60 per kilo. With each kilo sold, he pocketed an impressive $200. His girlfriend at the time, a stewardess, became an invaluable asset, ferrying the drugs without fear of inspection, thanks to the minimal scrutiny her luggage received. Initially, the venture provided a modest income stream. However, as word of his abundant supply of high-quality weed spread, George recognized the burgeoning demand and the need to expand his operation. Yet, a significant hurdle loomed over his ambitions. George was still reliant on middlemen in California for his supply of marijuana. As the demand for marijuana continued to soar, Jung recognized the potential for even greater profits by bypassing intermediaries and establishing direct connections with the source. Thus, he embarked on a quest to forge work. Despite weeks of tireless effort yielding no results, their perseverance finally paid off on the brink of disappointment. As the day of departure approached, fate intervened in an unexpected manner. A young blonde woman driving a Volkswagen Beetle crossed paths with George and his companions, offering them a ride. In the casual exchange during the journey, they divulged their plans of visiting Mexico. Utilizing small planes, they transported hefty loads of 600 to 800 pounds of marijuana at a time from Puerto Vallarta's Point Damia to dry rock beds near Palm Springs, California. From there, the illicit cargo was swiftly loaded into large motorhomes, embarking on non-stop journeys from California to Amherst, Massachusetts. Their strategy involved flying the illicit cargo in a small plane from Point Damia in Puerto Vallarta directly to clandestine landing sites in the desolate dry lake beds of Palm Springs, California. Their business model was simple, yet highly profitable. In Mexico, they procured the marijuana from local growers at a mere $20 per kilo. Upon reaching the East Coast, they sold the same kilos for a staggering $300 to $350, capitalizing on the stark regional price discrepancy. Eager to streamline operations and eliminate bureaucratic hassles, George obtained his own pilot's license, assuming control of both the flying and driving aspects of the operation. Despite his limited flying experience, Jung, driven by a potent cocktail of adrenaline and ambition, made the audacious decision to pilot the flight himself, marking the onset of a new chapter in his burgeoning career as a drug smuggler. Lost over the Pacific Ocean and roughly 100 miles off course, Jung faced a harrowing ordeal. As darkness descended, he miraculously navigated his way back and safely landed the plane. The adrenaline-filled yet terrifying incident led him to make a solemn vow to hire professional pilots for future flights. However, as the demand grew and the workload intensified, George and his team realized the need for additional resources. They began hiring professional pilots for the plane trips and expanded their fleet by acquiring additional planes, albeit through less conventional means, by pilfering them from a small airport near Cape Cod. In a matter of months, their audacious endeavor proved immensely lucrative, with profits skyrocketing to an impressive $50,000 to $100,000 each. The operation thrived despite the constant looming threat of being apprehended. They grew increasingly brazen, their confidence buoyed by the adrenaline rush of their illicit activities. Over time, the fear that once gripped them became dulled, almost imperceptible amidst the whirlwind of excitement and wealth. By the mid-70s, George Jung found himself reaping staggering profits, pocketing upwards of $250,000 each month, a sum equivalent to approximately $1.6 million in today's currency. Yet their reckless abandon would soon catch up with them. In 1974, the bubble of their high-flying lifestyle burst when one of their associates was apprehended and, under pressure, divulged George's name to authorities. The situation worsened when it emerged that the other smuggler had been involved in heroin trafficking as well, striking a deal with authorities to secure a lighter sentence by betraying his accomplices. George's world came crashing down when he was arrested in possession of 600 pounds of marijuana in Chicago. The arrest took place amidst the glitz and glamour of the Playboy Club, where George had been waiting for a drug handoff, oblivious to the impending doom that awaited him. However, landing in prison would unexpectedly open more doors for Boston George. In a cramped cell at a correctional facility in Danbury, Connecticut, Jung encountered someone who would alter his destiny forever. Carlos Later, a polite Colombian arrested for car theft. Amidst his carjacking endeavors, Later and send them on a trip to Antigua with Samsonite suitcases. Jung found two women whom he described as more or less naive to what was going on. He informed them they would be transporting coke, noting that, at the time, few people in Massachusetts were familiar with the drug. To his relief, the women succeeded. When they returned to Boston with the drugs, Jung sent them on another trip, and once again, they returned without detection. Jung realized that this marked the start of his coke venture with Carlos. George Jung and Carlos Later had ascended to the big leagues. They adopted Jung's method of flying drugs into the country, transitioning from transporting small quantities in suitcases to filling planes with coke. As their need for larger quantities grew, they partnered with notorious drug lord Pablo Escobar to handle the supply. Later and Jung took charge of transportation and distribution, while the Ochoa brothers, a trio of brothers, were responsible for greasing political and civil palms in Colombia to avoid legal troubles. Together, their enterprise became the cornerstone of the Medellin cartel. To the Colombians, George Jung was known as El Americano, and he introduced them to something they had never experienced before: aircraft transport. Previously, coke was typically transported in suitcases or by body packing, methods that were less efficient and riskier in terms of getting caught. However, Jung organized for a pilot to fly to the Bahamas to collect shipments of coke and deliver them to the United States. Before long, the operation was generating millions of dollars within days. Pablo Escobar supplied the coke, while Jung and Carlos handled its transportation into the United States, contributing to the international success of Escobar's operation. Their smuggling operation followed a routine. On Friday nights, a plane would fly from the Bahamas to Escobar's ranch in Colombia, spending the night there. On Saturdays, the plane would return to the Bahamas. Then, on Sunday afternoons, hidden amidst the heavy air traffic departing the Caribbean for the mainland, the plane would blend in as a lone radar dot among many others. It remained unnoticed until it slipped below radar detection and landed on the mainland. By the late 1970s, the cartel dominated the supply of about 80% of all coke in the United States, largely due to Jung's planes and connections. Jung was eventually ousted from his partnership with Later when Later believed he no longer required Jung's assistance in navigating the drug landscape of the U.S. At this point, Carlos Later had elevated his operation to an unprecedented level of audacity and ambition. By 19, transforming it into a haven of luxury, complete with a yacht club, lavish homes, and most crucially an airstrip, Later set the stage for a daring enterprise. Within a remarkably short span, Norman's Cay emerged as the epicenter of coke smuggling, flourishing under the cloak of corruption within the Bahamian government, making it nearly impervious to law enforcement scrutiny. At its zenith, Norman's Cay operated at a staggering capacity, unloading an astonishing 300 kilos of coke every single day. Carlos Later's operation soon burgeoned into a financial juggernaut, raking in billions annually. His personal wealth soared to nearly $3 billion, a testament to the unfathomable scale of his illicit empire. However, this setback did not hinder Jung. Later's departure actually enabled Jung to form an even stronger alliance directly with Pablo Escobar himself. As George Jung ventured further into collaborations with various sources, including direct dealings with Pablo Escobar, his earnings surged to staggering sums each month, courtesy of his role as a transport middleman. Despite an inkling that he was treading perilous waters, the allure of wealth, the chilling regularity of executions, and the palpable atmosphere of fear permeating his existence became mere background noise in the symphony of his indulgences. Working with Escobar proved to be as wild as anticipated. During one visit to Medellin, Jung witnessed Escobar execute a man right in front of him, claiming betrayal and then casually invited Jung to dinner. On another occasion, Jung saw Escobar's men throw someone from a hotel balcony. These incidents rattled Jung, who had never been inclined towards violence. However, there was no turning back now. By 1987, George Jung found himself with $100 million and enjoyed minimal tax obligations, thanks to an offshore account in Panama. He resided in a luxurious mansion in Massachusetts, frequented celebrity gatherings, and surrounded himself with the most beautiful women. Basically, I was no different than a rock star or a movie star. I was a Coke star, he reminisced. However, the glamour didn't endure. Later that year, Jung was arrested in his home after months of surveillance. There was just enough coke found in his home at that time to warrant his arrest. Jung attempted to flee on bail with his wife and one-year-old daughter, but was apprehended. Fortunately, he was offered a deal if he testified against later.
You gonna walk?
Oh, no. No, he's gonna go down, George. We just want to make sure he stays down.
This guy's an embarrassment. We got orders all the way from the top on this one.
No, I can't do it. Look, I may be a lot of things, fellas, but I ain't a fucking rat, you know? No, thanks.
Initially hesitant, Jung feared repercussions from falling out of favor with Pablo Escobar. However, when later agreed to testify against their former associates, Escobar himself reached out to Jung, urging him to testify against later to discredit him. As a result, Later was sentenced to 33 years in prison and was released in June 2020. An undercover officer involved in George Jung's apprehension had this to say about him. George is a personable guy, a funny guy, a nice guy. I've seen where he could get mean, but I never saw him become violent. You don't feel bad he's going to jail because he deserves to go to jail. You don't have regrets, obviously, but you think to yourself, you know, it's too bad. Under a different situation, you might develop a friendly relationship. Under normal conditions, he probably would have been a good guy to know. After testifying, George Jung was set free. However, he couldn't resist the allure of the drug trade and accepted a smuggling job with an old acquaintance. Unbeknownst to him, this friend was cooperating with the DEA. In 1995, Jung was arrested again and began serving a prison sentence in 1997. Eventually, a Hollywood director approached him to make a movie about his life.
Then it looked like we all had gone to hell in a handbasket. And then one day I called you guys and you said, we got a guy named Johnny Depp. And I said, who the hell's Johnny Depp? And when he got here, I fell in love with the guy. Johnny Depp literally blew my mind. It was me. He became me. And I told him jokingly that, you know, but one is the number and two is the one. And to be honest with you, I'd never seen a film that Johnny Depp had ever made. And that he portrayed me, and he literally became me, and his voice, his actions, his mannerisms, everything totally. And it's almost frightening. And if you could change places with me here now, I don't know, John, we could work something out.
I remember you watching it for the first time, just really laughing in the beginning at how funny he got some of your mannerisms in the 60s part of the movie, which is the fun part, and then really being touched by the emotional stuff at the end. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, it's almost as, I believe a lot in destiny. It's almost as if, the gods of destiny bestowed him upon us, because he's much younger than I am, but it's he's exactly me. I mean, even outside of the movie, as far as his likes and dislikes and his lifestyle, except for smuggling, John.
Right.
And his lifestyle, the literature that he likes, his philosophies, and his women, and Johnny is we're both a part of each other. That's all.
The release of Blow in 2001 starring Johnny Depp as young Boston George, catapulted him to celebrity status. After his release from prison in 2014, he faced another arrest for parole violation in 2016. Fortunately, he was soon released from a halfway house in 2017 and never returned to prison again. George Jung passed away on May 5, 2021, in Weymouth, Massachusetts, due to complications from liver and kidney failure. He was 78 years old. The tale of George Jung's ascent to prominence and subsequent downfall has been extensively recounted. He has been the subject of numerous interviews wherein he intriguingly confesses that he never foresaw the immense influence and devastating consequences that the drug trade would ultimately entail.
It's not that the fact is, as I've said before, that you know, that Escobar and I had the courage to be bad. It's that people didn't have the courage to be good or to care about their kids.
Right.
And that's basically what it boils down to. And I think, you know, you did portray it in the movie. It's there. And if people can't grasp it, then they don't want to.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this captivating story from the past. Remember to hit the like button and subscribe for more thrilling content like this. If you found this video engaging, be sure to check out the recommended video currently on your screen. Click to watch, and we'll catch you in the next one.